Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
You're
salam.
on live now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome our children and youth, students. I welcome you all and I greet you with the greetings of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you all. I know probably you cannot see me, but that's fine as long as you can hear me and you can see the PowerPoint slide that I've prepared for today's session. Just a recap of what we have covered so far in the past 3 weeks. Quickly and briefly, since we are in the month of October, and if you guys and girls remember, we said that this is a special edition of the children or the weekly children halaqa for the month of October, which is the Islamic Heritage or the Islamic History Month in Canada, not just in the province of Ontario, but across Canada. So in our first session 3 weeks ago, we started talking about history and the importance of the science of history and why we're supposed to be learning history and how important it is for us not only to know what happened in the past, but also one of the major reasons why we should be looking into history and learning about the past is to learn the great inventions as well as the contributions that people in the past, that our forefathers have basically introduced to humanity. And then another reason, or another important reason why we should be learning history is to frame a better future for ourselves, plan and work on having, inshallah, a great, better and brighter future by learning the mistakes of the past and avoiding them. And another important reason, and I will leave it at that, inshallah, is to know the importance of knowledge, the importance of science in our lives, and how that in order for us to gain knowledge, we need to work hard, we need to strive, and we need to put or exert a great deal of effort to learn and to gain knowledge. And that is based on 2 verses in the Holy Quran. Number 1 is the first verse or the ayah that was revealed to the Prophet Mohammed sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is in Surah Al-Alaq, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq," and read or recite in the name of thy Lord. So that is one verse that shows us the importance of reading and gaining knowledge. And in order to read, you have to work hard to learn how to read, because reading is the base of gaining knowledge. And then the second thing is, or the second verse is, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ وَإِلَى رَبِّكَ فَارْغَبْ. And this is an ayah that was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in Surah Al-Hashr, which says that once you're done with one task, one work, you gotta basically not dwell on relaxing and basically being lazy, that I just finished a job. Yes, you should take some rest. However, you should be thinking, once you're done with one task, you should start looking forward to another task that you can work on, achieve, and complete, and move on to another task. So in other words, as Muslims, as Muslim youngsters, we are supposed to be always making sure that we are working hard, day by day, at all, aspects of our lives. In 2 weeks ago, we spoke about Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khawarizmi. That was our first scientist or scholar that we spoke about. We mentioned that he was born in a place or a town called Khawarizm, which is in Central Asia, or what is known in the modern days as Uzbekistan. And without going into the details, we learned that Al-Khwarizmi made basically great discoveries and introduced the Arabic numbers based on the number of the angles that each number has. If you remember, we talked about that, how number one has one angle if you write it, number two and three, and so on and so forth. And he's the one who introduced zero, which is the base for all these newly modernized, computerized gadgets that we have, from laptops, desktops, computers, iPhones, and you name it, tablets, um, and which is the base or the foundation for programming. And he also did a lot, in terms of algebraic equations and algorithm. That is how algorithm is named after him, because of his name, Al-Khwarizmi. Last week we spoke about our second scientist, whose name is Ibn Nafis. He was, if you remember, he was born in Damascus in Syria, or what is known nowadays as, in the modern days, as Syria. And then he traveled to Egypt, and he made, basically, he memorized the Quran, he learned the Arabic language, and he was basically a deep thinker and reader. And he was amongst the scientists and doctors who made great discoveries in the area, specifically in the area of medicine. And if you remember, we said that he was given the title of the great, or the master doctor, or the master surgeon of Egypt. And he became an icon in the field of medicine. He built a hospital with all its basically departments in a matter of 8 months, and he became the master of the surgeons of Egypt, and he was the special um, uh, family doctor of Sultan Lahir Bebers. If you remember, we spoke about that as well. And he wrote a lot of books, especially in sociology and the function of the different parts of human body. And he laid some uh, first time theories in the area of medicine. And he's the one who basically explained uh, the book of Ibn Sina, the Canon, and in it he basically explained the anatomy of human body, um, and he also wrote another book called Ash-Shamil, or the Comprehensive, in the medicine technology. If you remember, we said that it was 43 volumes, and it's being taught till today and used as a reference in great renowned world universities such as Oxford and Berlin and Paris. Um, and he was the one who discovered, um, uh, pretty much 100 years before William Harvey, the pulmonary circulation, or the pulmonary blood circulation. Um, and so basically, uh, he was the real person, or the real scientist who discovered it. And at the end, when he passed away at the age of 78 in the year 1288, in the year 1288, if you remember, he was born in 1213 and he passed away in 1288. He left behind his house that was gifted to him by the ruler back then in Egypt. He left it um, as an endowment, as a waqf, as a donation to basically to be part of the great Al-Nasiri hospital in Egypt. And they used to basically conduct scientific experiments there, and it was part of the hospital. Today, inshallah ta'ala, in the next half hour or so time that we have, we will be, inshallah ta'ala, talking about our scientist, Al-Hassan ibn al-Haytham, or as he is known as Ibn al-Haytham. Or as the Westerns call him, the father of the modern optics. So let's see what is about Hassan ibn al-Haytham. As you can see on the screen, Hassan ibn al-Haytham was born around 1,000 years ago in what is known in the present days as Iraq. He was born on July 1st, Canada Day. He was born on July 1st in 1965 in the city or the town of Basra in Iraq. In the Hijric calendar, in the Islamic calendar, that is 354 years after the migration of the Prophet Mohammed sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was born in a very special time, as we will see, and he lived for about 74 years. We'll come to the end of his life later on. He was, in the West, they know him initially, or they knew him initially as Al-Hazin, because of the Latinized, version of his name. He was known as Al-Hasin or Al-Hazin, but his real name is Al-Hassan. Or Ibn al-Haytham, as people know him. He was a pioneer in science, and he was a deep thinker also. He made important contributions to the understanding of vision and optics and light. We will see that, subhanallah, Al-Hassan ibn al-Haytham, and again, this is something that is probably not known to many. He was one of the people, or one of the Muslim scientists, who made great discoveries in the area of vision and optics. Let's keep going, inshallah ta'ala. Ibn al-Haytham was born during a creative period. He was born in the golden age of Muslims. So that was the area, or the basically around from year 200 to year 1000 Hijric. So we're talking about an area of, or a period of time of approximately 800 years. This was known as the golden age of the Islamic history, or the Islamic civilization, that saw so many great discoveries, fascinating advances in the area of science and technology and medicine, astronomy, geography, and geology, and you name it. So Muslims, during this period of time of 8 to 900 years, Muslims have made a great deal of contribution to basically to modern science. And Muslims actually were basically, these discoveries were in a very vast area, of basically speaking, from the west, from Spain, all the way to the boundaries, or to China on the east. Men and women from different faiths and cultures, and specifically Muslims, they built upon the previous, Roman as well as the Greek civilization, and they made discoveries that had huge, unappreciated impact on our world. A lot of these discoveries that our scientists today, Hassan ibn Haytham, and many of his caliber made, unfortunately, are not known, especially to us as Muslims, as Muslims in Canada. We know very little about our great ancestries and their knowledge and their discoveries. So Hassan ibn Haytham was basically, he lived in that period, even though he lived only about 75 years. He was one of those scientists who lived in that period known as the Golden Age of Islam. The Golden Age of Islam. He was uh, a pivotal figure in the history of optics. Again, um, this is where his title, father of optics or father of modern optics, came into the picture. One of the sayings that Hassan ibn Haytham has said, and I need you to pay attention to this because this is such a great statement that we need to understand and reflect upon. He said, if learning the truth is the scientist's goal, which is, I'm sure that it's your goal, it's my goal, it's the goal of every Muslim, right? And it should be the goal of actually every human being. It should be our goal to always seek the truth, find the truth, and follow the truth and act upon the truth. So he says, if learning the truth is the scientist's goal, then he or she must make himself or herself the enemy of all that he reads. What does that mean? It means that we as Muslims, as young Muslims, especially in this day and age where we have, a vast access to so much information, especially online on the web. We are reading a lot. We're exposed to so much on basically social media, Facebook, um, WhatsApp, uh, and Instagram, uh, Snapchat, and TikTok, and you name it. You're exposed to so much information. But the question is everything that we are reading, is everything that we are coming across, is everything that we are exposed to, is it real? Is it true? Um, and how do we know if it's true or not? There's an ayah in the Quran that says, "In ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu." So Al-Hasan ibn Haytham is actually statement is based on this verse in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Hujurat, and I'll give you the verse number in a minute. It's basically Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is basically telling us that we need to verify the information. That's our job. And if you want to be a great scientist, if you want to be a great Muslim, it is your duty to verify everything that you come across and you read. In other words, do not become a blind follower. Don't just read and say, yeah, that should be it, So Hassan ibn Haytham was one of those people that, didn't just, believe everything, because there was so much knowledge before Hassan ibn Haytham. There were some basically ancient Greek and Roman basically scriptures that were available that Al-Hasan al-Haytham had to read and had to basically reflect upon. But he was not just somebody who believed everything. In fact, one of the great discoveries of Hasan al-Haytham, which we will learn in a minute, speaks to this methodology or this way that Hassan al-Haytham actually adapted in his life as a Muslim scientist. So the verse that I was referring to is in Surah Al-Hujurat, um, verse number 6. O you who believe, if somebody brings forth a news to you or an information, offers information, فَتَبَيَّنُوا. What does that mean? Tabayyun means that you verify. You have to find out whether it's true or not, whether it's real or not, whether it's made up or fabricated, or whether it was just a guess that somebody made. So it is an essential conduct, or characteristic of a true scientist, that the person has to conduct basically experiments and test what is written rather than just blindly accepting it as true. I will give you another example. I'm sure that many of you have come across the evolution theory, right? It's a theory.
Uh,
But that somebody I think wanted to say something.
I don't know. It said the host would like me to unmute. Do you want me to say something?
You can say, everyone has the ability to basically to click their mic and interject when I ask a question, or if I'm, if you want to basically throw in a line, as long as we are not basically speaking over each other.
Uh,
Um, so maybe I should ask if anybody can give me an example of something that you have learned in science, which is, you
I
know,
I know he like discovered how we see light in our eyes. I think, right?
yeah, that's true. But the question I was asking was, have you ever come across something that you have read or a piece of information that you were not sure whether it's true or not, even if it was in a book
I
that
mean,
was taught in
I've
school?
come across like a lot of hadith. I'm not sure if it because some people can make up hadiths. I'm not sure if it was real or
That's
not.
true. That's true. Yes, yes. Hadith, for example, that's an excellent example. The hadith, not every hadith that you come across is true. The hadith has different, basically, classifications, different levels. There's a hadith that is sahih, which means it's a sound, true hadith. There's a hadith that is hasan, that is, it means that it's a sound hadith. That's the next level after Sahih, and then there is a hadith that is Hasanun Sahih, which is basically in between. And then there's a hadith that is Mawdu', which is fabricated. There is hadith that is Da'if, and there is hadith Hasanun Lighayrihi, and so on and so forth. So, in other words, there are ways that you can test that's a knowledge by itself. So you need to learn that knowledge in order to basically know whether this hadith is true or not, whether it is what class or what level of hadith it is. So going back to Al-Hasan ibn Haytham, he was one of the earliest scientists to study the characteristics of light. A lot of people back then didn't know actually that light travel in a straight light, right? This is one of the things that Hassan Haytham spoke about, in depth. And actually, the Greeks scientists, they used to think that in order for us, for human beings to see something, a light actually, is produced from our eyes, and it hits the object, and that is how our eyes or can see the object. Ibn al-Haytham actually he did extensive experiments on the eye, on the human eye, and he named the different parts, such as the retina, and also the Qaraniya, which will come and see that it has an English name that was taken from Arabic. So many things that were actually, whether it's in our human body and in other areas of science that are actually originally from Arabic origins, Arabic names. And when we say Arabic, we're talking about Muslims, basically Muslim scientists, and they were Latinized. They were, Englishified, or whatever you want to call it. Um, and Hassan Haytham, after doing extensive experiments, he proved that there is no light that actually, travels from the human eye. It actually, the way that we see it, the way we see the objects is that the light actually, it's because of the light that reflects from the object. So the light basically travels to the object from the source of the light. It could be, it could be a lamp, it could be the sun, it could be. This is how we see the moon, because the moon doesn't have a light by itself. It actually reflects the light of the sun, and that light reflects from the moon, and then it travels to in straight lines to our eyes. And of course, we all know that, and this is one of the other discoveries that Hassan Haytham made, that our eyes actually see the object upside down, but subhanallah, our brain is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the human brains, this great capability, of telling, of flipping that picture, and so that we can see it the way that is in front of us. So um, Hassan ibn Haytham, when he traveled to Egypt, he basically, when he started his studies, um, he made sure that he did, he always sought experimental proof of the theories and ideas, like even the theories that he basically came up with. He didn't just leave it like that. He actually did extensive studies, and he made sure that he basically did experiments on it until he proves it one way or the other. When he lived in Egypt for about 10 years, he was under house arrest, and the reason is because he was invited by the ruler of Egypt at that time to participate in building a dam, because he was a scientist, but he refused to participate. No need to go to the reasons. So basically, he was put under house arrest because of his refusal to participate um, in that project. And during that time, he composed one of his most celebrated works, Kitab al-Manadir, the book of Manadir. Manadir means basically, in English, it's called the Book of Optics. Um, but more properly, or in a broader meaning, it's called the proper translation would be the Book of Vision. Ibn al-Haytham made significant advance in optics, mathematics, and astronomy. So he wasn't just studying human science or the science of vision, but he also excelled in the areas of mathematics and astronomy. His work on the optics was one of that was characterized by a strong emphasis on carefully designed experiments to test the theories and hypotheses. And subhanallah, we will see in our next slide that Ibn al-Haytham actually came up with this called he built this thing called al-Bayt al-Mudlim, which means the dark house, which is the concept of the camera. So in other words, he was the one who discovered the first camera, and you will see in the picture how he did it. I should go to that slide here. You probably can see it. I hope it's clear to you, inshallah ta'ala. So as you can see, in the area, or in the little hole, he made in Al Bayt Al Mudlim, or in the house camera, or the room that he called it Al Bayt Al Mudlim, the dark house. He basically proved in a way that, subhanallah, that light travels straight from outside, and through that hole you can see the picture of the masjid, of the minarets and the dome behind that house, reflected on that screen, upside down, in that screen that is hanging off the ceiling of the Al Bayt Al Mudlim, or the dark house. And this is how he basically, after doing several experiments, he proved that this is basically how the human eye sees the objects. Going back to um, our previous slide, so Ibn Haytham basically was the first scientist who basically proved that, number one, the light travels in straight lines, and then that's subhanallah, the job, or the functions of human eye, and how that there is no light that basically comes out of our eyes. Um, so our human eyes do not produce light. It's the light that is reflected from the object. that travels through our eyes, and we see the object upside down, and then our brain basically, subhanallah, um, uh, see the object, straight the way it is. Latin translation of some of the works of Ibn Haytham have influenced the most important medieval and European um, Renaissance Renaissance and thinkers like Roger Bacon, Rene Descartes, and Christian Huygens, who knew him as Al-Hazin. Remember, we mentioned that in the Latinized name or Latinized version of Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham is Al-Hazin, because that's how they translated his name basically. The crater Al-Hazin on the moon. There is a crater on the surface of the moon that is called Al-Hazin. It is named in honor of Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham. Subhanallah. One of the important things that we should talk about here also, that Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, he set new standards in experimental science and completed his great book of optics sometimes around year 1027. So we're talking about over 1000 years ago. Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham set basically he set new standards in the way that you do a scientific experiment. His book of optics was translated into Latin and had significant influence on many scientists in the Middle Ages. And he also, subhanallah, Al-Hasan al-Haytham named different parts of the human eye. And I guess I will just, leave it at that, inshallah, because of the strength of the time. Another thing that is worth mentioning here is that many scientists, subhanallah, until today, they refer to Al-Hasan al-Haytham and the discoveries that he made and the standards that he set for scientific experiments till today in major, worldly renowned universities. And our scientist Al-Hasan al-Haytham passed away at the age of 74 in around the year 1040. So 1040, basically, he passed away at the age of 74. This is Al-Hasan al-Haytham, and this is the discoveries and the basically the contributions that he made. So just quickly, inshallah ta'ala, let's recap, our scientist Hasan al-Haytham. His real name is Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, and he was born around 1000 years in Iraq, precisely July 1st, 1965. 965, in the town of Basra in Iraq, what is known in present days as Iraq. Or the country known as Iraq. That area was known as Iraq for years, or for thousands of years. And he passed away at the age of 74 in March 6, year 1040 in Cairo, Egypt. The Latinized version of his name was Al-Hasan or Al-Hazin. He was a pioneer scientist and thinker. And he made great contributions in understanding, of vision, optics, and lights. He lived in the golden age of the Muslim civilization, where there was, subhanallah, great, amazing and fantastic and great advance in science, technology, medicine, astronomy, and you name it. And one of the great statements of Hassan al-Haytham is that if learning the truth is the scientist's goal, then he must make himself or herself the enemy of all that he reads. And the meaning, as we explained, that you should not be a blind follower of everything that you read. You must make sure that you test it, you examine it, you experiment it, um, rather than just accepting it as true. And by the way, following this rule, we could save ourselves a great deal of problems in our lives, and we will help stopping spreading rumors and basically falsified information. And you can apply this rule on any area uh, of your journey in seeking knowledge. Um, some of the books I should probably just don't forget Al-Bayt Al-Mudlim, which is basically the concept of the human eye, and was the basis of the first camera ever in human history, the dark chamber that he called Al-Bayt Al-Mudlim. And the Latin translation is basically the camera obscura. It's a device that forms the basis of photography. So remember that was also something that Al-Hassan al-Haytham did and created, experimented, and introduced to the world. That's the picture of Al-Bayt Al-Mudlim, or the dark chamber. I forgot to mention that Al-Hassan al-Haytham, our scientist, wrote 96 books he recorded to have written. Only 55 are known to have survived, and that's because of the attack that happened at the time of I believe it was in the 6th Islamic calendar, the 6th century in the Islamic calendar, when the Mughals attacked Baghdad and the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, and they destroyed the books, and they burnt so many of them, and they threw so many in the rivers. And some of the books of Hassan al-Haytham are The Light of the Moon, The Light of the Stars, The Rainbow and the Hollow, the Spherical Burning Mirrors, Parabolic Burning Mirrors, The Burning Sphere, The Sphere of Eclipse, Deformation of Shadows. That's another area of science, again, in physics, that he basically wrote extensively about, the discourse of light or on light, and many other books that he wrote, subhanAllah. So we'll leave it at that, inshallah ta'ala, and we will see you next week, inshallah ta'ala, with another scientist. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward Al-Hassan al-Haytham and reward all of the Muslim scientists who made great discoveries, not only to the Muslims, but also to the entire humanity. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless their souls and reward them, and make these contributions, inshallah ta'ala, a form of sadaqah jariyah, an ongoing charity for them, inshallah ta'ala. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. And please do not forget to join us, inshallah, on Friday, on our special edition of the Kahoot quiz competition at 7:30 p.m. Not 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m., inshallah. So the halaqa, the children halaqa, is at 7 p.m. every Wednesday, and the Kahoot quiz competition at 7:30 p.m., inshallah ta'ala. See you Friday. Have a wonderful day, and don't forget to pray your Isha. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.